Tiffany, the Budgetnista, America's favorite personal finance educator. Welcome to Docs Outside the Box. What's up? What's good?
What's good? I'm good. How are you? They just
I'm
so it's just Dr. Darko.
just call me Nee. That's it.
Okay.
Call me
All right,
Nee. You
Nee.
good? You good? Well, I'm really glad to have this talk with you. I've been a big fan of yours, as I said before we started recording. I grew up in Irvington, not too far from Newark.
Yeah.
I actually went to high school. I went to St. Benedict's Prep.
Oh, really? Oh, right
Yeah.
in Newark. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
a
I used to
great high
take the
school.
25. Yep, I used to take the
Yes.
25 down to Martin Luther King.
Oh,
Um, oh
wow.
yeah, oh yeah, and then we used to walk to Penn Station, and then we'd all split up when it was time to go home.
That's
So
awesome. Wow, you're taking it back,
yeah, we taking it way back. So it
right?
looks
You're
like you
gonna
go way
next thing
back
you know,
also.
you're gonna call Martin Luther King High Street. That's what I know. Like,
Only the true Newark heads know about that.
I know.
You represent in Newark really really well. So how long you been in Newark now?
So I was born at St. Michael's Hospital in Newark, but then I was raised all over Jersey. Then I came to Newark to work when I was in my mid-20s, and then I moved here. I want to say it's been about just under 10 years I've lived here.
Really? So
Hmm.
are you impressed with the changes that's been going on with Newark? I mean, to go
I
from
am.
what it was in the 90s to where it is now, you got a Whole Foods. What's up with that?
I know we have Whole Foods, Starbucks. I have to say I did it. My husband was born and raised here in Newark, so I didn't see all of that in between. I kind of came just as Newark was, transitioning into what's happening now. So yeah, but I heard it was definitely rough times.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. It was some tough times under Sharp James, but it looks
Mhm.
like Cory Booker and
Ross
Baraka.
Baraka.
They've done some really great things. So
Mhm.
that's really great. And one other thing too, I want to ask you before we get started. So
Mhm.
I know you're from Nigerian background. So have you ever tasted Ghanaian jollof?
Oh boy, here we go. I've tasted it. It's I guess. The
I've
Jollof
never
Wars continues.
I've never tasted Nigerian jollof. I don't plan to. I
Really?
don't feel like there's a need because it's just like the best thing.
Well, I literally went to this thing called Jollof Wars that was in New York, and I will say Nigeria won. So sorry. No, but
No,
honestly, Ghanaian Jollof is good. I'm not even gonna pretend like it's not. But actually, who is it? Senegal. Senegal. So there's somebody else's Jollof that I'm not gonna say that. Like I'm not gonna lie. That I actually prefer to both Nigerian and Ghanaian Jollof. I think it was Senegalese Jollof or something. It was another West African country that their Jollof is amazing.
I think it's Senegal. I think that's
Yeah.
where they're saying all of this stuff actually originates from Senegal,
Yes,
actually.
we over here fighting. Ghana and Nigeria are always fighting over something, and like meanwhile, the rest of West Africa are like, really? Because that's mine.
So you're saying we culture vultures? Is that what you're saying? So look, I have been watching your Ascent for a long time. Um, I was someone who did not really understand budgets. I didn't really understand my personal finances for a long period of time, and it wasn't until I found you on YouTube, on your blog. I saw you on TV, and then I started really understanding and seeing all about the personal finance world out there. You were like my first introduction to this,
Mm.
and to go from where you're at and where I am at and have you on the show, it's really a big honor to me. So I just want to say thank you for that. And but I want to take it back because I want to
Mhm.
set the stage for everybody so they understand like what's the deal. So like, how did you go from being a preschool teacher for like 10 years in Newark
Mhm.
to where you are right now? Like, I know like the next thing you got to do is like an interview with CNBC. So how did you get to that point? How did that jump occur?
Um, I was already teaching financial education, just not, as a business. I grew up like so many West Africans, we're known for our frugality, at least our parents are. And so I just grew up hearing, some of my Nigerian names, Adochi. So I just grew up hearing Adochi, we don't have that. You want what now? So my father specifically he's got his bachelor's in engineering and his master's in finance. And he and my mom together really worked hard to make sure my four sisters and I understood personal finance, how to budget, how to save. So my dad would actually sit down and teach us those specific lessons, like pen, pad, paper. And my mom would teach us those lessons in the streets, right? Food shopping. We would go, I can remember, I'm like, this is not the marketplace in Nigeria, but she would negotiate
Yeah,
everything everywhere
everything's
we went.
negotiable.
everything. To a West African, oh,
Yeah.
please. Right. And so I just really grew up learning kind of like the mechanics of personal finance and money, but then also the actual application. And so I was really comfortable, especially up until my mid 20s, with managing my finances. And so I started helping my friends. It started with my college roommate. She had debt collectors calling the room. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I remember telling my dad, and he would give me advice to give to her. So that started kind of like the education train for me. It was, I would tell my dad, he would tell me, I would tell someone else. And before you know it, because when you teach, you learn twice, I just started to absorb
Mm-hmm.
that information.
Yeah.
Now, that's a very West African thing. When you teach, you learn twice.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, so I was supposed to, my dad wanted me to go to law school, like, every African parent. You can be a doctor, you could be an attorney, an engineer, or a pharmacist. Everything else is a drug dealer. That's what I always tell people. Right. That's the level of disappointment that your parents are going to give you. Everything else. So I'd gone to school for business, got my degree, but I knew secretly I wanted to be a teacher, but I was actually scared to tell my parents I wanted to be a teacher because, again, teacher equates to drug dealer. But I told them. And so although they were disappointed, they were like, okay, well, then just be the best teacher that you can. And so I taught, and I thought that I was going to, I went back to school. I got my master's. I thought I'd be a principal, but I just really loved teaching until the 2008, 2009 recession came. And
Uh-oh.
my school that used to get nonprofit funding, they lost their funding. And so I lost my job. And so that's really when my business, the Budgetnista, activated. Because as I was digging my way out of my financial mess, I was helping my family and friends who were having a harder time. And before I knew it, kind of word got out and my business really took off.
Now, the financial mess that you got into, was that just because 2008 occurred, or was it like kind of bad, decision making, your money, not putting your money in the right places that it should be, or this is just purely from just not having a job from 2008?
And no, it definitely was compounded by not having a job, but I'd made some mistakes prior. So, and I won't, so one, I purchased a house. I didn't understand the housing market. So I purchased a house. Maybe if I had been like watching the economy and understanding that possibly we're in a bubble, maybe I wouldn't have gotten my condo when I was 25. It was in 2005, 2006 when I bought my condo.
Oh, it was right on
And
that bubble. Right on that
right.
bubble.
hmm And so, and I should have known, because they were trying to push me to get a home I couldn't afford. Like, I knew what my teacher's salary could afford, but it was like, oh, no, you can get a home worth $100,000 more. That was like commonplace, and,
Yeah.
but I looked at my budget and I was like, but you told me the mortgage is going to be this much a month. I can't afford that. And so, knowing what I know now, those are red flags. So I purchased my home 2005, 2006, and then I got my master's in 2006. So all of a sudden, I went from no debt, because I paid off my undergrad student loan debt, because I commuted and my parents helped, and then I paid off the rest. So I didn't have any student loan debt from undergrad left over by the time I was 26, and I didn't have any credit card debt, because my dad had already taught me that you pay off your credit cards in full every month. And then also, I had a car, but I stayed home 1 year after graduating, and then I bought myself a used car for $5,500. I didn't.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
So all the basis, like the foundation was just
Yep.
set, was great.
Yes, it was. I was financially perfect until, I would say, 26. But all of a sudden at 26, I have a mortgage and I've got student loan debt, which normally by itself wouldn't be so bad. But then at 27, I said, you know what? I want to learn to invest. And instead of asking my father, financial genius that he is, to teach me to invest, I'm going to surprise him that I'm going to learn on my own. And I reached out to a friend who, back when you're in your 20s, when someone looks rich, you think they are rich.
Oh yeah.
He was not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out to him, and instead he got me involved in a credit card scam that left me at the end of the day $35,000 in credit card debt.
Wow.
So I went from up to 26 financially perfect to now having, this mortgage, which is not so bad, the student loan debt, which not so bad, and then this credit card debt, which is like, okay. And so all of that, and then you combine all of that, and then you lose your job. It was just like this snowball effect, and
You can't
it
recover.
just, it was, when I tell you, I was drowning. And then I even moved back home to say, I'm going to rent out my condo to another friend. And they proceeded to never pay my rent on time. So the very reason why I rented out the condo was like, okay, they're going to pay me rent. I'll be able to pay the mortgage. And they were late every single month, sometimes months. So I ended up
Wow.
spending all of my savings and even withdrawing money from my retirement account to keep the condo so I wouldn't lose it to foreclosure. So it's like, if I was going to do all that, I might as well have lived there.
Right.
I'm going to tell you, it was a nightmare. And so by the time I was 30, 31, I had all this debt. I'd lost my condo, and I was living at home, like, wow, like how the mighty have fallen.
Wow. 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 So then, like, what was the turnaround? Like, how were you able to turn this around and become who you are? Because you
It
hit rock. It
was
sounds like you hit rock bottom.
I did. I hit rock bottom. I was like, oh, if rock bottom was there, I was under the rock of rock bottom. The only thing I will say is, because I was always grateful that I always said, well, you're not going to be homeless and you're not going to be hungry, because I had my family, but other than that, I had nothing else, as far as financially. And so what turned it around was, really, I'd been avoiding my friends for like almost a year. And my best friend, Linda, she kept calling and calling. And then one day she got through to me on the phone, and she was like, what's going on, Tiffany? And I was going to pretend like everything was okay, like I normally would. But then I just broke down and told her everything. I told her about all the loss. I told her about all the mistakes. And I was waiting for her to gasp and, treat my mistakes the way I was treating them, like the end of the world. And she didn't. She just started laughing. And I was like, I failed to see what's so funny.
Would she
And
say
she
me
was
too or something?
basically, she was like, girl, we all broke. Like, she's like, you new to this, but we've been through this. Like, literally, you got student loan debts, so you got credit card debts, join the club. She basically was like, have you taken a look at your friends? Like, it's the recession. Everyone is struggling. And even before the recession, nobody was financially responsible in our 20s. You were the only one. So she normalized and help take the sting out of my financial mistakes. And it was then when I realized what was holding me back was really the shame of it all. And so once I was able to lower that shame, I was able to really see that I knew the solutions, and I fell back on my fundamentals and started to dig my way out. I was like, the fundamentals are budgeting, savings, managing your debt, managing your credit. So slowly but surely, I started to dig my way out, and I started to help my friends along the way. And as I mentioned before, when you teach, you learn twice. And so the more I taught, the more I learned, the more I taught, the more I learned. And I used to do a lot of volunteer work because I would help my friends, and I was on unemployment. Back then, because of the recession, they extended unemployment for 2 years. So I told myself, you have 2 years to figure out what it is you want to do. So I went from my parents' house. I stayed with my sister on her couch for like a year, trying to figure it out. It was on my sister's couch that I got my first contract, because I had done so much volunteer work. The United Way in Newark took notice and said, do you want to write financial literacy curriculum for us and teach it? And I was like, sure. And I remember it was maybe like $1,500 a month. And, I was like, I'll take it,
Right. At that point.
And yes, at that point I was like, look, that's more than I have made in the last 2 years at this point.
And that's, I guess you're at that point, you're on what you call your ramen noodles budget.
Yes, I called the noodle budgets. I was like, look, so I had already decided. I was like, okay. So, and it was a hard decision, but during that time, sometimes you have to understand that actually I was worse than my ramen noodle budget. I call it my health and safety budget. So there's 3 levels. Your health and safety budget is the budget that you adhere to when you don't have enough to pay your bills, when what you make is not enough to cover your bills. So you only pay for your health and safety bills, your health and safety expenses. That means, do I need this expense to maintain my health? Do I need this expense to maintain my safety? That means Verizon can wait. That means literally everybody can wait except for things that will maintain my health and safety. So that's where I was. Everything else was late. I was like, they're just gonna have to wait. It is what it is. And I was able to rent a room because my sister was sick of me sleeping on her couch. She had a 1-bedroom. I knew she was sick of me because she was moving. And I said, oh, where are we going? She's like, we are not going anywhere. You have 30 days to figure it out.
Your name ain't on his lease.
Home. Yes, exactly. She was like, the nerve. You told me 3 months. It's been 9. I was like, so that's when I got that contract with the United Way. And it was enough for me to rent a room. I was renting a room in Newark, New Jersey, like I just came home. Some of y'all don't even know what that means. Some of y'all know exactly what that means. But the good thing is, it was a friend of mine, because it was post-recession, there were so many young 30-year-olds who were in that same position. So the room that I rented was in this beautiful brownstone right downtown Newark. And a friend of mine had gotten a room there. She was a teacher as well. And she filled it with her other friends. So our friends. So it wasn't like, so although I was renting a room, it didn't feel, there wasn't a sense of despair because it was this home now filled with all these amazing women who had decided to chase their dreams. And so it became a hub of activity, of we just like used to help each other out and share our dreams and our goals. So it really became like it became an incubator in a community. And so for $500 a month, that's all I could truly afford. And so that's where I really hunkered down and tried to figure out how could I take my business, the Budgetnista, from the $1,500 a month to the next level. And that's
So
when I started.
So at that point, you're already thinking about this being a business, the Budgetnista.
Yes, because before then, I'm someone who's actually risk adverse. People think like, wow, you're an entrepreneur, Tiffany, you go for it. I'm like, no. To me, the risk was if you can lose your teaching job, that just seemed like, that's the safest job in the world. That's what they tell you, right? Teachers, doctors, police officers, right? These are supposed to be recession-proof professions. So for me to lose my teaching job, a switch flipped in my head and made me say, well, then that actually is the risky job, not betting on myself. Yep. And so that's why I was like, I'm not going back to nobody's classroom, because I was a really good teacher. I had been getting teacher of the year. Our classroom was like a template for other classrooms. So I had done everything right. I got my master's. So I checked off every box. And to still lose my job, I just said, I'm not going back. The risk is really in when I put my future in someone else's hands. I'm going to decide my own future now.
A lot of people have a hard time understanding that concept because the first thing they want to do is just find another, employer type, situation. But that's dope that you decided just to bet on yourself, because it's true. Like that's the one that you can really control. That's the one that's giving you the most security.
Exactly. Wow.
So
then from there, I was like, okay, so typically in business, there are like stages. Many new entrepreneurs start off as one-on-one. That's not scalable, meaning that I remember literally doing the math. I said, okay, how much do you want to make a month, Tiffany? And I was like, okay, if I can make, $2,000 a month, what do I have to do to make $2,000 a month if I was going to do one-on-ones, and each one-on-one was $200? You're like, oh, you have to do 10 one-on-ones. That's a lot. Okay.
It's a time suck.
Exactly. So then I was like, okay, then the next stage of the game is one to few. And so one to few was me in a classroom. And I said, okay, here's the same 10, 20, 30 people, but I can spend that same hour, 2 hours that I would get $100, $200 for, but now I can get $500 because the United Way used to pay me $300 to $500 per class. And I said, okay, so that's one to few. So then I started thinking, well, how do I teach more people? What does that look like? What does one to many look like? And so I thought, okay, so I remember talking to a friend of mine. His brother had just won junior class president at Keene University. And I was over his house and he was like all geeked. He knew I was teaching finance. He was like, yo, now that I'm president, because, feeling himself at age 17 or 18 or however old he was, you should come speak to the students, like my class. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe. He said, yeah, we pay $1,500. I was like, oh, I'll be there. Yes, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? I said, for how long do I have to speak? He was like, no more than 2 hours. I was like, wait, I can make $1,500 in 2 hours talking to some kids?
It's like these opportunities come raining now.
Yes, when you're ready for them.
When you're ready, yeah.
Exactly. Because if I had not done the prior work, he wouldn't have known that this is what I was doing. And if I had not been teaching at the United Way and volunteering, I wouldn't have been ready to stand up at Keene and speak. And so I was like, okay, that's one to many. So then I started looking for other opportunities with colleges and churches and organizations like that. I started to lean into social media. So back then, it was really mostly Facebook. Twitter was around a little, but people weren't using it in that way. Facebook didn't have Facebook groups or Facebook businesses. So I changed my personal Facebook name to Tiffany, the Budgetnista Aliche. And I started to market on my personal page. Like I used to give myself homework every day. And one of my homeworks was that I would send a friend request to 100 people. You cannot do that now. Facebook will ban you.
Yeah.
But then what I would do is I would say, okay, Neem, he looks like he has a professional headshot, send a friend request. And if you made the mistake of accepting my friend request, I will go through your whole friend list and look for anyone else that look like they might work for a corporation that might hire me to speak. So that's what I would literally do. I would be looking for professional S pictures. Do you have like corporate event pictures? I'm like, friend. Literally, that was on my list because I knew that on my page, I was going to be posting me speaking, teaching. I was going to be posting
LinkedIn right now, how LinkedIn is right now.
Exactly. So I was posting all of those things, hoping, and which did work, that people would be like, oh, I saw you just spoke at such and such. I would love you to speak at my da-da-da. I'm like, got him. And so that's how I would use Facebook. It's because
I know you from Newark when you say got him. Got him.
And so so that one to many, it was, so the thing about one to many is that it wasn't as consistent. You know, you're kind of at the mercy of whoever wants to hire you. But I had moved from one-on-one, I had moved from one to few, and I had moved to one to many. And then I said, okay, now by then I was making a few $1,000s a month. I said, okay, this is starting to work, but it's still a lot of work. How do I move from one to many to one to infinite, you know? And so, or infinite, relatively speaking, you know? And then I thought, I started this online course called the Literature Challenge. Because I was posting on social media, people who didn't live in Newark wanted to come to my classes at the United Way. They said, I would love to take these classes, but I live in Florida or California or wherever. And I thought, well, how do I take these classes? Maybe I'll put them online. So I did, and I created the United Way. I'd written a 6-week series, so I condensed it to 5 weeks and called it my Literature Challenge. And I put it online, and I said, my goal is to sign up 10,000 women to sign up for this free Literature Challenge. I made it free because I said, I'm going to do it free the first year. And then the next year I have proof of concept, and I'll see if I can get sponsors for the next year. I might even be able to get sponsors this year. And so by then I had written a book. I was always really good at budgeting, even before I'd lost my job. I had actually created like this notebook, because people ask me so often to help them with their finances, like even the parents at the school. So I wrote this book in a notebook where I would pass it around to people with, like, it was also almost like a collection of lesson plans of how to create a budget. So by then, with all of this happening,
always one of my teaching skills.
Always, right? One of my roommates in the room, well, she had her own room, but like one of my roommates, I remember Nina, she designed the book for me. And that's when Facebook came out, where you could upload your book design and sell it on Amazon, not Facebook. Amazon came out and you were allowed to do that. So I did that. No one bought it, but still I had my first book, the 1 week budget. And I would convince places that I spoke, hey, you should get the book for the people that I'm speaking to, the students or whomever in the audience. And so that was one of the ways I was making money too. So then it took me like 2 or 3 years to figure out, like, I dropped the price of the book, and it finally hit like the Amazon bestsellers list of 1 week budget, but that took like 2.5, 3 years.
Really?
Then here comes, because I didn't know anything about anything. I was literally Googling how to market book. And so I would just try everything. And I remember it wasn't until, so the book itself was like $14, whatever, which was normal. But then the Kindle version was $8. That's what I used to sell it for. And I met this guy at, I was doing a career day at a middle school. And I remember this guy was talking, he was like teaching the kids, and he was saying something to the effect of like, I'm an author, and, you know, I sell books, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, so I cornered him. Like I was one of the middle schoolers, like, excuse me, how do you sell your books? Like, I can't seem to get my book to sell. He said, it's likely the pricing. How much is it for the physical book? I said, like, you know, $14, $15. He said, that's normal. He said, how much for the Kindle version? I said, $8, which is half. And he says, too high. Yeah. And I was like, nah, it's not, bruh. Like, it's not too high. It's half the price, the same book. He was like, that's not, perception is more important than reality when people buy. And he said, I want you to go type in budget, whatever, personal finance, whatever category your book is. And I want you to look at the top 10 books, Kindle versions that are selling, and tell me what the prices are. And none of them were over $5. Yeah. I'm talking about the biggest names in book in publishing. And I was like, he said, and I still was like, yeah, nah. You know, the Nigerian in me was like, I'm not giving my book away for cheap. Are you crazy, right? And he said, well, how about this? Do a sale. Just do, I mean, how you gonna be broke and prideful? That is so Nigerian, right? So he said, just do a sale, do like a 1 week sale and just see. So I posted on social. By then, I had been posting about the book. I had been doing teaching. I was using my Facebook page as like an ad account, you know? So I've been like, people, I was already showing improving. And I said, hey guys, my 1 week budget book, which has helped this many people with their budget, was $8 on Kindle. I'm dropping the price temporarily to $4.99. All of a sudden, within 2 days, hit the Amazon bestsellers list for Kindle. I mean, on par with Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, all of that. I could not
So you
believe
were the
it.
bigwigs, yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? So he was right. So it's been on sale for the last 10 years for that same $4.99.
Well, let me ask you a question then, because I know the book was hitting and, you know, your program was hitting. What do you think was the biggest, why do you think you were able to resonate with so many different people? And what do you think was the first issue with a lot of people in terms of handling their finances?
I think what resonated with people is that, one, I actually care. So there's an underlying feeling of like, yo, Tiff got me. She actually cares about me, because I do. And it's the teacher in me. Like I look at everyone I teach as like my student. So when you're 3 and 4 and you came to my preschool classroom, I cared about you. I prayed for you. I wondered if you were okay. I thought about you when I went home. Like, I care about my students. So that resonates. And then 2, the fact that I actually teach. So just because you know a thing doesn't mean you can teach a thing, you know? And so I know how to take you from a place of no knowledge to knowledge. Once I know a thing, I can get you to know a thing. And so it's, you don't wait, and nothing is wasted. So the fact that I taught preschool for 10 years was by design. You know, to me, it was divine design, because there's something called the 10,000 hour rule that we've likely heard from Malcolm Gladwell. Yes, one of my favorite authors. And it just states that in order to reach mastery level of a skill set, you spend about 10,000 hours on that skill set through practice of that talent that you naturally have. And so for me, I was already a natural teacher, I suspect, as a kid. But now for 10 years, I'm in the classroom, not just teaching. If you know any teacher or principal, they will tell you that you put your best teacher with the youngest grade, because it's hard. Like, have you ever tried to teach a 3-year-old? Like, I have my niece, Amelia. And you're like, Amelia, this isn't red like an apple. What's an apple? You're like, oh boy, here we go. What's an apple? Now we got to go before. You have to teach the foundation. Yeah, it's like the pre-foundation to the foundation before you can even start building. So if you can teach 3 and 4-year-olds, some of them don't even know their name. You're like, oh, what's your name, Jojo? Well, your name's Jonathan. Who's that? And you're just like, okay, how can I teach you your letters? And you're just learning that you have a full other name. And so teaching there for 10 years taught me how to teach you to go from a place of no knowledge to knowledge, but with encouragement, with love, with fun. So to me, the magic sauce is that I preschool teacher everybody. That's what you're getting. You know, like, you're getting that non-judgmental, you're getting that encouragement, you're getting that breadcrumbing to success. Like, I'm using the same principles I used to teach little ones to teach adults about personal finance, because most people have that same sense of a 3 or 4-year-old when it comes to their money. They can be as smart as they want to be, doctors and attorneys and whatever, nurses, right? But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to their money, they feel like they're 3 and 4. And so I lean into that. But yeah, but the pivotal moment for me was taking what I did at the United Way and creating the Live Richer challenges. And I wrote the challenge. I said I wanted 10,000 women to sign up. It took me 8 months of social media posting to convince people it wasn't a scam, to get 10,000 people signed up. And in January 2015, I launched the Live Richer Challenge. And I remember, like, literally a month before I was launching it, someone said, is there going to be a book version? And I was like, well, why would you want a book when the challenge is free online? And look, it's like, I didn't, it was like, ding, Tiffany, like, and I just was like, I remember fighting against them, like, that doesn't make sense. But people were like, no, because not everybody wants to do things online. Could you just put the blog? It was a series of blog posts of challenges. And I said, okay, I'll put this series of this 36-day series into a book. So I got a young college student, put it into a book, designed the cover, again, uploaded it to Amazon. And how it took 3 years for my 1 week budget book to hit the Amazon bestsellers list, it took 3 days.
I mean, what was
3
the price?
days.
What was the Kindle price?
The Kindle price then, same thing. It was probably like, like $3.99, $4.99, something like that. Mm-hmm. But the book itself was like $10. And I couldn't believe it. And so I had nickel and dime to save to put together the Live Richer Challenge. It cost me about $10,000. I don't even know where I got the money from, just a little here, a little there. It wasn't until the end of the year I did my accounting to see how much it cost me to design that challenge. And that first month in January, I remember I wrote myself a check the year before, and I said, one day, like I'm going to make $10,000 in a month. And I wrote a check and I put it, I have like this keepsake box and I put it in there in January, or really February, because you see your money the next month. But I had sold $10,000 worth of books. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
I went from nothing, a little bit, a little, like, you know, like it just, it was such a long period. It went from losing my job at 29. And I don't think that, like, I think it was like, I was 32, 33, and I made $10,000 in that month. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, now we got something. We got something. Yeah. And then from then on, it was on and popping.
I think about my sister-in-law. I love her to death, and we're really close, actually. And she's trying to get budgeting, trying to understand the concept of budgeting, but she finds it so restrictive.
Yeah.
But we're trying to tell her, like, once you embrace it, like, you really, where you think you are is really not going to be where you end up. Like, you're going to go to a different place. So
exactly.
Like, how do you get people, how do you convince them about the B word, about budgeting, to really embrace it? Because at first I found it restrictive. I don't find it restrictive anymore. It really helps
me either. It's freeing. Because to me, one, I tell people your budget is your say yes plan, right? Mm-hmm. So your budget is like, yeah, you could do that if, oh yeah, you can go on vacation if, and so the if really should be cutting out things that don't mean that much to you, so you can have the things that do mean a lot to you. So it's like, Tiffany.
See, the way how you describe it right there, like, how can you not want to, embrace
exactly
that concept, right?
Because I was just like, you know what? I was like, damn, I remember one year it was like, it snowed like crazy. Because sometimes Jersey, you'll get a winter and no snow, and then you get a winter snow every day. And I remember I was like, okay, I wanted to go to Florida and I had no money. And I thought, oh, so I looked through my budget and realized that, like, I did have the money. I spent it in sushi because I love sushi. And I was like, I added up the last, because I saw, like, on Groupon, I saw a flight and hotel combination. It was like $550 for flight and hotel to go to, like, Florida for, like, maybe 3 or 4 days. And I added up how much I'd spent in sushi over the last 3 months. And it was like the cost of me going to Florida. And I remember being like, so you see what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, you can go to Florida if, girl, you tempered that food.
This is the one that you went by yourself, right?
What, to Florida?
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean, I do a lot of travel by myself, but it was my best friend. She wanted to go, and she's like, let's go. And I was like, I don't have the money. And that just wasn't true. I did have the money. I just had it allocated to something else that wasn't as important to me.
Yeah.
So this is how I would tell your sister-in-law. What's her name?
Her name is Chantal.
So Chantal, right? So this is what I do for my husband, because he's not a budgeter. So I've taught him how to split it.
And you have to go into that too, because I want to know how do y'all make that work? But anyway, go ahead.
Yes, it was it took a while, but so now this is the plan I've got him on, because I used to be like what he would call the bully budgetnista. He said, people only knew you a bully budgetnista. I'm like, whatever. And meanwhile, he's 6'6", right? So he's just right. Like, I'm like, but so this is what I've learned with him, is that I've got him to split it before he get it. And so this is what happens, because if the money lands, he's not gonna, like, I actually enjoy the spreadsheet and the moving around. Like I just did that the other day, and it was like joyful. Like I turned on Drake and I was just like, like bopping, switching my money around.
Wait,
and
no WizKid? No Afrobeats?
I do like WizKid.
Come on, Tim.
I know. But like, so I had a little bop going, and but he's not gonna do that. So instead I said, okay, there are 4 accounts that you should have. So 2 are checking, 2 are saving. Checking number 1 is the bills account. Because we're married, we have a joint bills account that he mostly contributes to. So he pays most of the bills, and then we save and invest mine. Right? Okay. But it might just be for you. You might have a different, there's no right or wrong way. If you're in a relationship, or even if you're not, you should still have a separate checking account for bills. So he has gone to HR and said, hey, HR, put this amount of money into my bills account before I because you can usually split, I think, up to 4 times. Some companies it's 2 or 3 or whatever, but his company allows him to split up to 4 times. So most of his money goes into that bills account, right? That bills account is not attached to a debit card. Don't do it, or you will swipe away your bill money. Second split is some of the money goes into his personal checking. So that's like, we give ourselves like an allowance. So if I see him with new Jordans, I'm like, And he's like, I don't want to hear
These are the Hirachis. The
it. Right,
Hirachis. Come on,
right.
yo.
Yo, you are so Jersey Hirachi. Like,
Get him a Dr. J's, yo.
right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's still here, Dr. J's,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And so he, so that way, because that's will save your marriage, that people are allowed to, he can get whatever, because the truth is that's the money that's coming from his personal checking, so that's the two checkings go at your big bank, right? And then you have two savings accounts. One savings account is our emergency savings, like, so short term. Well, that's not true. For the one savings is his personal savings. I really believe that as an adult, you should have some autonomy and agency over some of your money.
Right.
So he has money that goes automatically into his savings, and I have a personal savings as well, because he might want to save for whatever, and he might want to save for a bigger ticket item, and he knows that he doesn't want to pull that from the family's budget,
Or even just surprise you or something for a gift.
Exactly.
Right.
And then the second savings account is our long-term savings account. And so this is where I contribute the majority of my money. So most of his money goes to our bills, but the majority of my money goes to our long-term savings. And from there, that's where we invest with. So we save now that we have 6 months of our expenses saved. The excess now goes to investing. So whether it's buying property, whether it's investing in the market, we have a financial advisor. So I actually was just a financial planner, and I actually just emailed her yesterday, like, hey, you could take this amount of money out of our account and put it toward our brokerage account and invest it for us. And so those are your four: bills account, allowance. If you're single, emergency account, right?
And you say 6 months.
Yes, 6 months ideally. Yeah.
Of just
your
expenses.
So I call it your noodle budget expenses. So your noodle budget is your basic bare bones expenses. So if your normal life costs you, say, $7,000 a month, that's hair done, nails done, everything did, then your noodle budget might cost you $5,000 a month, right? So you want 6 times 5 in that account. And then your long-term savings account, which really your long-term savings account is really pre-investing account, like money that you're saving up to invest, because you cannot budget and save your way to wealth. So if his money now, before it lands in our household, it's pre-split. HR puts that money into those separate buckets. And I suggest putting your savings account, not in a big bank, but an online only bank, like an Ally. There's like Capital One 360, Barclays, because it makes your money inconvenient. So because if your money is not in the same bank, to transfer from savings to checking, it takes about 24 to 72 hours. So if you're at your, Target and you're wanting something and your checking says, now, you don't got it, and your savings does have it, it's going to be a 24-hour wait. You're not sleeping at Target. You're going home, right. And so that's why I suggest. So if you do that, literally that's it. You don't have to budget. You do the math at one time, have your money split, have your bills account pays bills for you automatically. Your savings is automatically saved. All you're worried about is the money that's in your checking account attached to your debit card, your allowance money. You swipe with that, and when it's done, you're done. So that is what I tell people. That's how you budget without a budget, is to just split your money and then let it automatically pay bills and save for itself.
And before they know it, it's habit. And like you said, they're not even thinking about it.
Yes, my husband was like, he doesn't really, he's always like, because his money is in an online, normally you look at your brick and mortar bank, that's the bank you check regularly. So he doesn't check his online savings very much. So I can always tell when he checks it every few months, I hear like, woohoo! I'm like, online savings looking good, huh? Mm-hmm. And he was like, just because the money's just coming out, he doesn't feel it. He just knows every 2 weeks I get my spending money to do whatever I want with. And I have my savings to do whatever I want with, because he's contributing to the household, as am I, contributing to the bills, contributing to our future goals collectively. But then also too, I believe that adults should also have agency over some of the money they bring into the house. Now, here's the thing: you might, if you're really young, a young couple, and you have no money, there might not be enough for you to have your personal savings and personal checking. And that's okay. You can work toward that, but that's the ideal. Those are the 4 accounts for if you have someone. And then the only thing that's different if you don't is that second savings account is just your emergency account. But you should, even as a couple, you should still have your emergency account.
No, that's a great plan. I love it. Now, what about people like physicians, lawyers, the ones who are in a ton of student loan debt? They got a bunch of liabilities. They don't have any assets whatsoever. They may have a 6-figure salary or close to it, but they feel like they're drowning, similar to how you felt before.
Mhm.
They got the career that they've always wanted, but they don't know how to handle their money. They don't know anything about investing. They don't know how to budget. They don't even know where to start. How about those people? Like, how do you get them to really focus on that one thing that they need to do? Where do you even start with them?
So if you are someone who is a high net worth earner now or high earner, right? So I would definitely consider getting with a financial planner. Because like for example, I have a financial planner now, Angelique, actually, because her husband is a physician. She actually specializes in work with physicians because, to your point, they're really good at this, but they're like, I don't know anything about finances.
Yeah.
So one, I want you to understand and to understand that, and Dame Dash said this, and I was like, yo, he nailed it.
Yo,
That's Dame Dash is that crazy uncle that makes sense sometimes though.
he needs an app that has like all of his different things that he says, the
Yes,
isms, the dame isms that he
yes.
says.
And so this you're never gonna forget because I was like, yo, you hit the nail on the head. Dame Dash said, I wish I could tell these young cats out here that are working, that they working for the wrong thing, that the purpose of working is to own. So that the things that you own will one day put you out of work. And I was like, yo, meaning that like most people think they work, they work, they work. And then what happens is they're working to pay bills, they're working to save, they're working to go on vacation. That you are working to make money. Yeah, do all those things. But really the end goal is to make money so you can own things. Owning things like assets. Assets puts money into your pocket. So owning real estate, owning intellectual property, owning business, owning stocks, owning bonds. So thinking like I am working to own those things because assets puts money into your pocket. So if I was like when I was a preschool teacher, Tiffany, working, I might say, oh, I don't make much. But what I do make after I pay bills and enjoy my life, whatever, I'm setting aside and I'm going to self-publish my first book. Now I've got this book. I own this book. This book might make me $200 a month because now this asset is going to work for me. Okay, $200 a month from the book. That's 200 more than I was making before. Okay, now what else can I own? You know what? I'm going to start this business, and maybe preschool teacher Tiffany. Maybe I start a babysitting business or whatever. And so now this business, it's not me babysitting. Maybe I hire other babysitters to go out for me. And now that business, after I pay the babysitters, maybe I'm making an additional $2,000 a month. So now it's like, so maybe my teacher salary is paying me $3,000 a month, but now I've got this business that I own making me two. Now I've got this book that I own making me another two. So $2,000 here, $200 here, 2,200. I am close to replacing my teacher's salary. Do you see?
Yes.
Now I'm like, okay, with this 2,200 I'm making every month now, additionally from my assets, I'm saving. Then I get my first property and I say, you know what? I'm going to get a multi-family house because I know that because I'm a first-time home buyer, I can get an FHA loan and put down 3.5%. So I'm going to get a multi-family house, a
Can you say this in
three-family.
your Nigerian accent? Because I just see your Nigerian.
You can see, right? You can see it's coming through,
especially
especially
the thing in your Nigerian accent.
right. So I said I'm going to buy a house. So 3-family, 2 at minimum, right? Because I want someone else to pay my bill. You're going to pay my mortgage, right? And so you have your tenant is now paying your mortgage, and now you're making. So now the house is making you, let's just say, an additional $500 a month. So now this house, because you're renting it out, and not only is the house making you $500, you no longer have to pay your $1,500 a month in rent, right? So effectively, this house is making you $5 and saving you $15. So that's awesome. So you're making $500 a month off the house. You're making $200 a month off your book, and you're making $2,000 a month off the what did I say? Oh, off the babysitting, whatever, or tutoring business, right? So all of a sudden you're making $2,700 every single month, just this close to replacing your income. But here's the thing: you no longer pay rent. So technically, you don't need the full 3,000 you're making as a teacher, a month, because your rent is taken off the table because you're living in a house that the mortgage is being paid for. But do you see how you don't have to actually make a lot to be technically financially free? If your life costs you $3,000 a month and you are focused on creating ownership and creating ownership in a way that is intentional to put money in your pocket. So that's what I would say to new doctors is that, what are things that you can own? Are you going to start your own practice? Are you going to invest in the market, maybe with the help of a financial planner? Are you going to write a book? Are you going, like I have a cousin now, he wants to be the next Dr. Oz, right? Dr. Ugo. Shout out to you, Dr. Ugo.
Funny. Oh, we can talk about, but I'm actually helping him start his own podcast.
Exactly, right? So you see what I mean? That's ownership. And so there's no right or wrong when it comes to ownership. I started my ownership with business, but some people might start their ownership with real estate, or some people might start their ownership with books or whatever. So that's what I would say to young doctors, is that as you go out there, ask yourself, I'm really working to own what assets can I invest in so I can eventually put myself out of work. That is the ultimate goal. Like, even now, if I didn't want to work anymore, I don't have to. I enjoy working, but if I didn't want to work anymore, I don't have to. Not because like I'm super wealthy, although I do make a lot of money. Not because I'm super wealthy. My dad, I remember, like, my dad was so disappointed because, my husband is just like a regular dude. He's like a super for the city of Newark. And my dad's like, I thought you were married a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. I said, why? He was just like, I know it's all because, Nigerians, I want, for money, right? Not for, he's just thinking like your husband is going to be able to take care of you. I was like, first of all, Daddy, let's be clear. I make more than that doctor. I make more than that lawyer. I make more, my business makes 7 figures a month. They making that? So if that's what you're looking for, I was like, you raised me like this to be able to more than self-sustain myself. So for me, like, if my husband was a doctor, great, I guess, but that's not what I needed. I needed support. I needed like encouragement. I need those other things. But if you're wanting me to find someone who makes more than me, I'm going to be hard pressed to find somebody who's making 7 figures a month. I don't personally take home 7 figures, but slight flex, but still, you know what I mean? And so like, that wasn't on my criteria, because I was like, what is 0.0001%?
I'm really interested. Like, we went from you teaching us about the personal finance, topics. And the thing that I keep getting from you is from early on being a preschool teacher to jumping to where you are right now, not wanting to, put yourself in a situation where you could be fired again or lose your job again, you betting on yourself. I saw you answer this question in another interview a while ago. Basically, it says, do you feel like being afraid versus feeling wealthy hurts you at a certain point? Like, do you feel like there's this concept of, well, I just want to, if I become safe or if I stay safe, that's worse than just saying, let me bet on myself. That's where it's at. Like, how do you, when someone asks you that question, how do you think about that?
No, absolutely. That what is truly safe is not safe. That it's actually, safety is a myth, and in aligning your life with what seems to be safe is actually one of the most unsafe things that you can do. Because then it leaves you and you're caught unaware. So the fact that, like I said, as a teacher, I was like, oh, I'll always have this job. I never have to worry. It's super easy. I don't have to think about it. And then
Doctors
it's gone.
Losing their job now in COVID.
Exactly. Like, look, imagine if I would have said 10 years ago, I'm going to go right back to that same classroom. I would have been doubly devastated, but now, like, the last recession caught me off guard.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Think about that. I would have been like, okay, that was just a fluke. It was just a fluke, a once in a lifetime. And then 10 years later, like, wait, what? We're back here again. It caught me, with debt. It caught me with a home that I didn't fully own. It caught me with all this. Now, this recession right here caught me with 2 homes that I own in cash. It caught me with, I had already paid off my parents' house, so I'm not worried about them during this recession. It caught me with no student loan debt. I wrote one check, $52,000, paid off my master's 2 years ago. It caught me with a thriving business that actually thrives during times like this. It caught me ready in my business because we work digitally, so we didn't have to make this switch that so many people are struggling to make. We already, the struggle was people were home with their kids, but not working from home. So this recession actually, it caught me in so much of, like, the place I am now is so much better in that I'm actually thriving. I'm actually doing better during times like this because I am not reliant upon external things to keep me afloat. It's like, so it just caught me, like, it's almost like I've been preparing for this for the last 10 years and now here we are and I'm ready. Like imagine, I'm like, even if everything were to fall down, I'm like, I have a house. I have one that's being renovated to be rented. This one, there's no mortgage. There's no mortgage. Like I don't, like there's nobody that can come and take this house unless I don't pay the taxes, but it would take a lot for me not to have my tax money annually. So it's just a different space and place. And I get it. I mean, I can't imagine how much delayed gratification someone who has gone to school for 8+ years is experiencing. And I'm not going to say, I don't want you to over sacrifice. But I want you to put whatever that joy or whatever it is that into your budget. So if you're wanting to travel or whatever, make it a line item, but I want you to be able to sustain this better life for yourself. You've worked really hard. You worked too hard to now become a slave. I'm sure you felt like in medical school, you're like, oh, I'm a slave to this. So now you're going to now create a lifestyle that you will additionally be a slave to that for the next 30 years. You deserve better than that. You've worked too hard to get here. Focus on ownership, enjoy, but with a plan in place, and don't make being debt free the goal. Right? That's the thing I know with student loan debt, because I remember, so I paid off now your credit card debt is the devil. Work hard and getting rid of that credit card debt.
APY, yo.
Okay, it's the fastest raise you can give yourself is to pay off your credit card debt, because the interest rate, double digits interest rates, are just sucking you dry when it comes to your wealth, right? So be aggressive with paying off your credit card debt. Be passive aggressive when paying off your any debt that's below double digits. So that's what I learned that lesson, because I went really hard paying off that credit card debt from the scam that I'd experienced. And then I was going to go really hard on my student loan debt. And I said, remember, the purpose of working is to own. And I was like, all right, I pay off the credit card debt. I'm glad that debt is gone. But now I'm putting in work. Do I really want to put in work to paying off the student loan debt? That's not ownership. So instead, I put in the work into my business. And I said, my business will pay off my student loan debt. And so a few years later, so I put in, forbearance deferment queen, because I didn't have any money, really. And then
Tiffany, you know that game. I know that game too.
What? They knew me. They just knew. I'm like, hello. They're like, we know. I'm like, all right, see you in 6 months. Like, re-up. And so I put my time, my energy, and my funds into growing my business. And then that ownership allowed me 2 years ago to literally write a single check. And it didn't make a real ding in the money that I had. $52,000. In that same year, $52,000. Here you go, student loans. $120 was the rest of my parents' mortgage. Paid that off on a Tuesday. Then this house that I'm living in now, $180,000. It was a foreclosure that was really worth I think $360, $370. But it was a foreclosure, so we got it for $180. Boom. Renovations cost about $180. Boom. Then bought a tax deed from the city for $10,000. Boom, wrote that out, and we're renovating that. I think our budget for that's about $150. But all of that, right now, I could be sitting before you the last 5 years I've been working on paying off my student loan debt. Yay, I'm student loan debt free. Or the last 5 years I work on growing my business. Yay, I'm a millionaire. Oh yeah, and by the way, I paid off my student loan debt. You see? Because people make the debt free the goal. Debt free is a goal. It's not the goal. The goal is wealth. You can get debt freedom anytime you want when you're on your way to wealth.
Damn, Tiffany, you just broke it down. Wow, that was really amazing, and definitely a masterclass in budgeting, a masterclass in entrepreneurship, betting on yourself. This was amazing.
Thank you.
I know time is short with you, but I really appreciate your time. What you're doing is amazing. Also, kudos to you with the Budgetnista law. What is it? Law A1414 that makes it mandatory in the state of New Jersey for financial education to be integrated into all middle schools in New Jersey. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. It was a full circle moment to be able to do that. And then I went on to write my children's book, because I was like, how do you prevent these adults that are struggling now? And so, because New Jersey already had a long place for high school. So when my friend Assemblywoman Angela V. McKnight reached out to me, I said, there should be something for younger students. So we worked on the bill for middle school, and we're currently working on what it would look like for elementary school. But in the meantime, I wrote a book and I published it this year. It's called Happy Birthday, Molly Moore. I'm gonna show you, because she is Like, I mean, I don't know if they can see me, but I'm chocolate. I was like, yeah, this baby's gonna be chocolate.
There you go.
Yes, right. I was like, I wanted her to have that 4C hair because I was like, why are we not represented on books?
4C hair, yeah.
And so it teaches age-appropriate pre-financial education to kids 3 to 7. A little younger, a little older if you prefer, but ideally 3 to 7. And what I love is that Mali is Mali, like the African country. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then someone from Kenya reached out. I had no idea. She reached out to me and she said, do you know what Mali means in Swahili? And I said, no, this is after the book is already printed and out there. And she said, Mali means wealth. I was like, shut the front door. Mm-hmm. So she was like, literally her name means more wealth. How appropriate. And so I'm just really proud of it. We've already sold 10,000 copies of that book. And at the back of the book, I have extend the lesson questions and activities, because I understand that parents sometimes need help teaching age-appropriate financial education to their kids because they feel like they don't know. So I said, let me be teacher Tiffany to put these lessons and questions at the back of the book to help teachers and parents extend that lesson. So like, yeah, I just like, can I share the link for Happy Birthday, Molly Moore?
We're going to put in the show notes also, but of course you can.
Yeah, so you can go to MALIMORE, mollymore.com. That is like my new baby. A few places have reached out to turn her into a show. So you never know, you might be seeing her little chocolate face on your next streaming platform.
There you go. There you go. And based off of how much you're bringing in, you sure you don't need like a personal doctor, Tiffany, just so we can end the show? Like, I'm for sale. So, I can come in way under.
That's the next step.
Under. I got you.
That is the next step. I was just telling my husband yesterday, I was like, yo, we're getting a cook, bruh. I can't keep up. If you want to be eating leftovers for the rest of your life, that's as business
You're not
grows.
making a goosey stew? Or?
Like, yeah, oh no. I'm like, yeah. So my husband is straight, like African American. Some African things he likes, and some stuff it's too new for him.
Gotcha.
Right? If I want, I got to go home to my mom.
Awesome. The audience is probably like, what is they talking about? Like, y'all just need to know. Y'all just need to know West African culture, and y'all will get this. But obviously, what you're telling in terms of this knowledge, anybody can get this knowledge. This is amazing, amazing knowledge. And listen, I'm proud of your ascent, and you continue to go to different heights, and it's just amazing to watch you. And thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for dropping all these bombs, all these clue bombs on.
Yes, East Coast. Bomb. I know.
Buying your CD from right in front of Dr. J's.
Exactly.
The Check It Out Man.
Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah, I was gonna say no. He don't know him. Check it out. Check it out. Yes.
But no, this was amazing.
Thank
Tiffany.
you.
Thank you so much. And,
thank you.
Maybe in the future we could do this again.
Yeah. No. Thank you. This is awesome.